In the state of New York, there are numerous species of venomous spiders, such as the black widow and brown recluse. But there is yet another type of spider that is very dangerous to humans, and those spiders just so happen to be the Nassau Police Department in New York. And they have exposed the citizens to their spider dance of corruption. And in fact, I think that's gonna be the theme of the video. So, Skeleton Man, drop that funky beat. And in the past 2 years, the spider dance of corruption from the Nassau Police Department in New York has been so noticeable that some of the stories involved are just comical. Like, for example, back in 2020, the Nassau Police Department was warned to stay away from New York City because there was a chokehold ban. And now, do you understand the implications of that? And that was a directive from the top brass at the Nassau Police Department. And they told their officers to avoid New York City unless they were accompanied by or approved by a supervisor. And you would think that this is because the NYPD is known to abuse citizens, but that was not the reason. Instead, the reason was that the top brass at the Nassau Police Department were concerned that the chokehold ban was somehow a restriction on law enforcement, and perhaps this department needs some restrictions because they also engaged in a spider dance when they allegedly arrested and kidnapped 2 young black men. And it turns out that these 2 young black men were simply riding their bicycles when school was out for exams. And then they encountered the Nassau Police Department, who immediately accused them of crimes and then arrested them for no apparent reason. And it turns out that these 2 young men had done nothing wrong. And you might be thinking, well, surely the black officers with the Nassau Police Department would have stopped this. Well, the problem with that is, despite the huge budget that the Nassau Police Department has, which allows their officers to be paid higher than even the average NYPD officer, they appear to have a problem with recruiting. And now you might be thinking, how could they have a problem with recruiting? Well, it turns out that this department has an issue with hiring African Americans or foundational black Americans, or just black officers in general. And amazingly, the last commissioner of the Nassau Police Department, whose name is Patrick Ryder, said something that was truly offensive when it came to him not hiring black officers. And this man had the nerve and the audacity to suggest that non-white applicants all came from broken homes, and that's why he wasn't hiring any. And just so we're clear, between the Nassau Police Department and the Suffolk County Police Department in New York, there have been more than 6,500 black applicants. And out of all those applicants, only 67 officers were hired. And there are 2 things that are very interesting about this. The first thing that is very interesting is the fact that the U.S. Department of Justice has in fact agreed with several applicants to the Nassau Police Department when they said that there are very discriminatory hiring practices, and when the department tried to correct this, they had white police officers who began to complain that somehow the hiring standards and practices were somehow discriminating against the white officers who were already in the majority. And the second thing that makes this department's inability to hire black officers so interesting is that instead of hiring officers of a different skin color, this department hired a bunch of officers from the NYPD who all had a history of misconduct. And if you think this department hiring bad cops is a new thing, well, maybe you haven't heard about the 2012 incident where you had 3 high-ranking Nassau police officers who accepted a combined $17,000 in bribes and gifts, and as a result of this, they had to drop a criminal case. And so you might be thinking, well, surely there is more information out there, because when you go to the Wikipedia page, there is some mention of police misconduct, but some of the cases that I've already mentioned are not in the wiki. And the reason for that is that this department is well known for hiding their misconduct files, because not only did you have a news media organization known as WSHU who had to sue this department just to get files, but you also had the New York chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, who also had to sue this department because the Nassau Police Department has a pattern of hiding away their evil misconduct because they simply don't want the general public to be aware of their corruption spider dance. But I imagine that the Wikipedia page will be updated pretty soon thanks to this video.
Spider pig, spider pig.
Business as usual.
Arrivederci.